Hi, hello. Welcome to my stream. I just realized I haven't connected everything I need for the stream. Everything I need to not miss your comments, um, your probable comments. And as one of the precautions, I start the stream on my phone. So I'll put it somewhere here. So many times I could forget what I'm showing on my screen, and yeah, sometimes I explaining something a lot and I understand, okay, I forgot to show my stream and showing just um forgot to show my monitor, but show instead my camera with me on it. So welcome. It's late night talk with romantic developer. Today is 213 series of our stream. And let me prepare for that. Let me start my chatbot, which I've developed during the stream to help me describe my videos. All you see in my videos, except images, by the way also are generated, but I change the index on the image every time. So I add every time number and choose another image, which of course are generated by some AI network. So also we developed some program which is open source under MIT license, and it's on the GitHub romantic dev, and under romantic dev account it's called YouTube AI helper, and it has multiple tools. First of all, it's of course tool to transcribe and describe any video using some prompt. You can choose as many configurations. I use a tool for different channels, for channels of my wife and so on, in different languages, and it can transcribe video much better than YouTube internal algorithm. And also it can suggest you titles, prepare keywords list, prepare description, create video chapters. Video chapters is something we work a lot on that, on the prompts. So yeah, and I'm executing stream. It's looking for my latest stream on my channel, and okay, on authenticated channel, it can be your channel as well. It's how you set up it. Yeah, you need to spend maybe a few minutes to set up, and then bot is active, and as well, as you see, real-time transcription is active. Real-time transcription I'm doing just for sake of both additional context of what we are talking about on the stream. So here you see that the line is just adding everything I'm talking right now with some delay, maybe a few seconds, up to 5 seconds. So yeah, not too much. So when you ask your questions, especially if it's related to what I'm talking about, the bot will have at least last 1,000 or several thousand characters from my real-time transcript. And as well, if you ask bot something about previous streams, this stream, or overall streams from the channels, some AI news, it can use tools. So basically, it's that AI bot is AI agent, which is running. We can set up the models it will run. Right now, it's running on the most cheapest model from United States brand. Maybe it's not cheapest, but oh, really? I believe it should connect model with name GPT-4 Mini. Initialized OpenAI client. Oh yeah, here it is. GPT-4 Mini. So it's the latest model it use, and of course it's super cheap. So I couldn't hit my $100 limit to go to the next tier on my OpenAI account for months, if not for years, because I use only cheap models. And Whisper, yeah, we used multiple approaches with Whisper. This Whisper is running locally and it doesn't use my GPU resources because I installed not good version of CUDA drivers, and in that environment where it's executing, I haven't built Torch with support of the recent CUDA driver. So if makes things simple, it doesn't use GPU at the moment. I need to fix that, but I have no time every moment of those. Okay, let's test the chatbot. Why we are testing the chatbot? Because sometimes I use my headphones, etc. Like now, I need to connect it to speaker. Hello, dear streamer. Have a good luck on your stream. So I'm writing a message from myself. It doesn't yet recognize the streamer. It recognizes the bot itself, so it for sure will not reply for the bot's message in the channel. But for the streamer message, it could reply, and it identifies
Hello,
that,
dear streamer. Have a good luck on your stream.
so it identifies that it should announce that comment, so I wouldn't miss it. Also, it's make sure that it's fall under moderation, so it shouldn't beep do something with that message. Also, yeah, it provided some answer because it's decided that message is not filtered for response for comment. So basically it means that chatbot decided it could reply. It's addressed maybe not directly to him, but he could be pretty helpful replying to that message. And that's why you see in the chat, it's my previous stream chat. Hello, are you good? Where is my, it's my chatbot account, by the way. Okay, we need to come here, go here, and, oh, really? Oh, yeah, it's different. It's the same, see, it's the same color scheme, and I decided that I forgot to update the picture, but now they're different. I live in Washington State, and I see whenever I go out from my home and start driving somewhere, I see the Rainier Mountain, especially if it's not Seattle weather. Yeah, let me stop it. And you see it's what it does. Thank you for kind wishes. I hope you enjoy the stream. If you have questions, feel free to ask. So at least, yeah, we tested that I can hear your messages if you hear me. Also expect some answers from my chatbot. It's not super clever. It doesn't use any reasoning models, and context we provided still not beautiful. Again, it's effective because otherwise I don't want to pay for all the API messages too much, but it should do pretty decent job. Okay, so we started everything. We are ready to go to our next chapter. Our next chapter is when we start the stream, we look for recent AI news. And for do that, I'm probably, I need to use my different browser session, my users session. There is a romantic developer session where we have some accounts on multiple networks, but it is our paid ChatGPT where we can ask some specific question when we need it. So it's our session from yesterday when we tried to run all the local containers and local setup, because it's a completely new thing for me, develop something in Python, especially complex application with client, server, queues, workers, like architecture. And ChatGPT proposes me to use some tools, and we just have set up everything properly. It was last stream. And it was the last news we received from here. Let's ask the same question again here. Research provides summaries and links to the sources. The news should be excited or curious. LLM for curious engineers. Really, help me write engineers properly. Engineers. Okay. It should understand me even that thing doesn't. Oh, and I press enter instead of. Okay. Let's do the same prompt with probably DeepSeek. I'm not sure if my session is live here. I haven't used it in ages. But again, we're not providing any specific information to DeepSeek. Why not try to use it? And maybe let's try to use new version in Qwen Max, and we enable web search. What is artifacts? Generate code. Okay, make search. And let's ask the same question from Qwen. Qwen 2.4 Max, as I understand, it's not like the open source model. Even we have a lot of Qwen open source models which we can use even locally through Llama or from LM Studio. Both ways we discover it on our streams. So you're welcome to join and see how we did it. So all three chats. Okay. Elon Musk Grok 3 outperforms all chatbots. At the Global AI Summit, Elon Musk announced that his next generation AI chatbot Grok 3 is in its final stage of development and is already outperforming every other released chatbot. This model developed under his XAI banner demonstrates exceptionally powerful reasoning capabilities evidenced by its impressive benchmark scores. This breakthrough not only strengthens the competitive race towards more advanced autonomous agents, but also hits significant strides in building systems that edge closer to artificial general intelligence. Engineers will be kept to follow the novel reasoning approach behind Grok 3, as this advancement could redefine how complex real-world tasks are automated. Yeah, it's really cool, especially if it would have some AI and we can use it for some small price that will move the things. Or again, we can wait until DeepSeek try to use XAI to train some new DeepSeek AI V4 version, and it will outperform Elon Musk Grok 3, and they release it under open source license, which also could happen. Of course, Elon Musk has better connection with Chinese government than Sam Altman, so maybe they will listen to him and not do that for him, but everything can happen. Alibaba and Apple join forces for AI-enhanced Chinese iPhones. Interesting that Alibaba and Apple is United States company, Alibaba is surely Chinese. Alibaba chairman announced a partnership with Apple to integrate advanced AI features to iPhones sold in China. Okay, so in China, they'll integrate Alibaba and all other world, some system powered by Apple. Okay, collaboration. And that is only 2 news from ChatGPT or 3 Mini High with access to web from February 11, which is basically last 2 days. What is DeepSeek? 67 seconds, 49 results. I like that it shows all the results it's search. So it's much more interesting. And what we see, it actually searches some archive.org. Of course, the links are pretty old, like last year, summer of last year, you see. So maybe not all the result would be relevant after February 11, but let's see. OpenAI cancels auto remote prioritize GPT-5 integrations. Oh, I like the source. Okay. Sam Altman announced the cancellation of the standalone auto remote, redirecting efforts towards GPT-5, which will integrate multiple technologies into ChatGPT and API platforms. So basically, they not cancel it. It's like probably renaming it. You can imagine that they, like if you see here, yes, let's maybe open something. Okay, you see that the list of the models, like all GPT-4o with scheduled task O1, O3 mini, O3 mini high, or pro mode. And also in all of those, for example, GPT-4o, you can say, okay, I want search. Oh, I want deep research. Oh no, I want image. I want image. Of course, it will disable deep search. And you couldn't use image and search together. And you can use, say, canvas. Probably, of course, it wouldn't use image. And if you use search, I think it's probably it could be used together, search and canvas, but I mean not like search and deep research, for example, because they disconnect each other. And also, of course, it's not reasoning. If for reasoning you can use O1, for example, and yeah, it supports only deep research. Actually is everywhere. But once you choose deep research, it will switch automatically your model, like GPT-4o. It will switch to GPT-o3. So some madness. It's really madness, and it's just what Sam Altman says, that he just want to simplify the things. So basically, he want to call it like GPT-5, and it would be multimodal. What it mean? It would be, if you want deep research, you just click icon deep research. If you want reasoning, more reasoning, you just click icon like reasoning or something. If you want images, you click images. If you want videos, probably click videos. If you want, I don't know, canvas, you click canvas. If you want operator, you click operator, and so on. So it would be, they just put everything into single name, but of course they will work differently for different layers of users. Of course, we couldn't read that page, but I saw several tweets. Oh, so Twitter and it tweets, X and it X's. I saw small X's about it. Yeah, introduce tiered access for user based on subscription level. And it's about multimodal. Paris AI Summit. Global collaboration and regulation. We talked a lot about that, but the main thing is Europe go path of governance, United States and China go path of research and fast development. And as you see, US refused to sign any declarations. They said they quite over-regulating the things, and all other, especially Europe, signed the declaration that they should enforce ethical frameworks, etc., etc., etc. Of course, which will impact the speed, how they allow new products on the market, and etc. Partnership, AI data center, 50 billion, which is nice. Nice. Probably they use some solar powered station, maybe something from Elon Musk, who knows. But United Arab Emirates actually is pretty good country to do some kind of businesses, because they have very low taxes, quite, and yeah, of course there are some policies around behavioral on the streets and etc. But they pretty cool in terms of you running the business which their country benefits from. For example, um, if I'm not mistaken, Trump and Putin will meet there, and also multiple companies, including like Telegram. Pavel Durov also chose Arabic Emirates as uh, their home for the company, not United States. DeepSeek surpasses Dubao in daily active users, so became the first domestic LLM to achieve 32 token context window, excelling in finance, legal analytics, code generation. So, okay, some Chinese news. Nice. Apple and Samsung partner with Chinese AI companies. Okay. Unveils AI misuse guidelines, new regulations. I hate this word. Ban emotional tracking by employers, manipulative AI practices, and unverified criminal prediction system. Balance innovation with ethical safeguards, aligning with the Paris Summit sustainability goals. Okay, so of course, the EU will not be the best country to do any innovation in AI for the next few years. Maybe it will change somewhere, sometimes, but looks like, yeah, European Union is not good because a lot of regulation, a huge amount of regulation, also huge cost of energy. They and regulation not only with AI, but they are in multiple things. And of course, taxes are super high. So if you think about top 5 countries in the world with highest taxes, of course, they will be in Europe, not in the United States. Maybe, yeah, let ask. Top 5 countries with highest taxes for business, and top 5 with lowest. Okay, we enabled search. Let's see what GPT said us. So, and GPT-5 integrations, of course. But I think it's not question of upcoming weeks. Probably it's more about upcoming months. Hopefully not years. And what about Qwen Max? Not much sources, but let's see. OpenAI deep research, a glimpse into future AI agents. OpenAI hypothetical link, really? Integrated into ChatGPT, this tool can independently discover, reason, consolidate insights from across the web, and able to compute, represent significant step towards. So, are we talking about deep research? It's not news from. It's news from a weeks ago. But it's, of course, I deep research. I like it really. I use it many times already, and I really like it. So we already saw that. Google Gemini, we saw that. NSF democratize access to AI research resources. National Science Foundation continues its mission to democratize AI research by providing access to critical research such as computation infrastructure, datasets, and specialized software. By lowering barriers to entry, the NSF is fostering innovations at all levels which could accelerate progress in LLMs, generative models, and other cutting-edge fields. And they said it's link number 5, and it's about no date. Let's just look. Probably some individual researchers not at the bar, and it doesn't say what is artificial intelligence, what we support. Probably they work on company levels, and I don't see anything I don't see anything like very recent. I don't see anything recent. Why Quen chooses, which of course is cool to know about such organization, but fundings. So it has multiple. So they provide you grants, yes, some awards. If you do some research, you can choose some program. And for example, you can apply to one of those programs, filter by. So let's see, National Artificial Intelligence Research Institutes. What is standard grant? Planning grants to create artificial intelligence ready test beds. What is that? July. Oh, really? I need ChatGPT to understand those. Full proposal deadline. Full proposal deadline. Let's look on something deadlining very soon. Deadline date for 2025. Deadline date due by PM submitting organization's local time synopsis. Seek advance to advance the development and adoption of innovative artificial intelligence method to increase scientific understanding of the Earth system. The program supports projects that advance AI technologies or innovate users sophisticated novel AI methods, blah, blah, blah. And program contacts, program events, projects funded by that program. So no, let's say no public information about any grants. You just contact them and you discuss with them, and they said from $6 million to $10 million, really. Of course, probably they're looking for some institutions, of course, but interesting. Breakthrough innovation highlighted in AI news. Breakthrough breakdown cooperative study on reliability of AI tools for news and research. Okay, what is nice with Quen, it's provided some links to some unexpected resources, you know, like NSF, of course, Medium, study report. DeepSeek was much more interesting, and looks like it's also falls into the required date range. I like DeepSeek results, and ChatGPT, of course, doing something good, but again, it's just returned us 2 articles while we ask it. Okay, we haven't asked it about any numbers. It decided to would be enough. Maybe we need to ask some more details. Okay, interesting news. What about top 5 countries? Of course, it would be the highest business corporate tax rates. Okay, I mean, maybe not. Oh, Puerto Rico, by the way. Yeah, it's pretty big in Puerto Rico. Barbados, Turkmenistan, Hungary. So you see, United Arab Emirates, it's pretty low. It's pretty low. And there are some free zone where you can pay even 0. So it's really not so much. What are the highest taxes for business only in North America countries and all the European countries. I make mistakes, but it's fine. Just very last question about rates of the taxes where we need to do our business, just in case. Okay, and we will return to some task in our coding. So they just divided Puerto Rico, Cuba, American Samoa, Mexico, Dominican Republic. In Europe, Malta, Portugal, Germany, France, Belgium. Of course, it's not included United States. So from United States, as you can understand, it would be lower than in Europe. But again, maybe I saw some different articles. I read some articles from very good journal recently. Maybe, and can you provide combined ranked list for top 10 countries in those regions for personal taxes rates? So what I'm interested in, maybe I'm mixing corporate taxes and personal taxes, but somehow they were very connected in that article. I really don't remember. It was several days ago and I couldn't find it. I wish I save everything I see on my phone somewhere. I save only a bit of information, but yeah. I use Wikipedia list of countries by tax rates to get that information. Okay. I mean, the way of thinking, of course, it's good. So you see, it's about personal tax. Of course, it would be France, 60. I believe France wasn't first in the article I saw. Sweden was very high. Yes, it was first or second. Denmark, that was also very high. It's around 30%. Austria, of course, it was in that list. So those three countries I recognize. France, I'm not so sure, but they said it's adding income tax mandatory social charges. High earners can face an effective margin rate of around 60. So maybe it wasn't, the article wasn't about high earners. So it was slightly below 55, if I'm not mistaken. So it was like fourth place or something. Canada, oh really? Finland, and only then comes United States. So of course it's not close to top 5 if we choose those countries only. And we're talking about personal taxes and of course company taxes, not the highest in the United States. It's way below the top 10, I believe. So yeah, Europe is not a good place to make a business, nor on personal front, nor on corporate front. I'd choose, of course, if you're in the United States, probably there is always a ways to do business in the United States because, tax system is complicated, but if you have a good advisor, it could be not so complex for you. And countries like United Arab Emirates, of course, provide you much best taxes for business and pretty good conditions. But yeah, maybe there are some other things which you need to consider.
Yo, where you based from?
Okay, where I am based from? Right now, I'm live in United States, in Washington State. It's Seattle greater area. It's not Washington, D.C. It's opposite side of the United States. But originally I came from Ukraine, yeah, multiple years ago. So I know pretty well about state of the things in software development business and state of the thing just with software developers in Ukraine, probably Russia, and United States, of course. Of course, I work with other developers from multiple countries, but yeah, that would be three main. Because India is so large, and even if I work with some developers from big cities, I know there could be completely different things and other cities and other companies. So I wouldn't, yeah, evaluate such a big country with such a big population where many people work in IT. Oh, nice. Seattle, pretty. So the nature is gorgeous. It's no questions. Um,
Nice. I lived in Seattle for a few years.
so don't see my bot. It tried to be helpful. Weather is not weather. Nature. Nature is great, and I personally love the mountains, um, the ocean. It's really close to ocean, water from multiple like places to that sound, budget sound. Um, but yeah, if we talk about weather, yeah, not so many people like Seattle weather, even in Seattle. At least they publicly say that. And because Seattle not the only place I saw in United States, I lived for some time in Virginia. It's quite close to Washington D.C. and the weather has also its pros and cons. Of course, if to choose where I want to live, probably that weather would be preferred. But nature, of course, I haven't never seen such a beautiful nature before. Such a beautiful forest, mountains, and so on. So it's very nice place. Okay. So I think I still have few questions about our,
The air is fresh there. Love that. Cool.
yeah, air is very fresh. And there was a interesting thing when I relocated to Seattle area. I took a truck to, yeah, the time everything we have was fit into one truck, and I drive it through all the United States because it was from East Coast to West Coast. And when we were close, of course, we find some place where to live before we went to Seattle, and it was in some surrounded city, like not Redmond, but other one, Renton, I think. And we were pretty close to Seattle. It shows like only like maybe 30 miles left, and we still driving in on that 90 90 highway, and it's still surrounded by trees, by mountains. And then we just use some road again through some mountains and some trees. And basically we drive to our community and mostly never see some some big homes, or like we see only personal homes mostly. Never seen anything like big. And I think, okay, probably Seattle is not as it shown before on the picture, so it looks like a big city. But yeah, it's took not so many, not a large space. Okay, it's took a large space, but it's possible to come to the Seattle and pretty close and never see some big architectural things. So yeah, it was nice, and because of it, yeah, like forest is everywhere, especially in the cities, which are probably in many cities. Even in Seattle itself, of course, much less trees than in surrounded cities, but uncomparably more than in New York City, for example. In New York City, just few spaces, if you're talking about city center, of course. But yeah, Seattle is pretty green. So on that stage, and where do you live now? How do you like the place comparing to Seattle? It's Mario. Hi, Mario. So last time we were able to, so first small intro. We have an open source tool in our GitHub repository, which allow us to do multiple things with streams, with videos in YouTube, on other platforms. And we basically described many of those in our README file. So let me just get the link to README like that. And it describes all the capabilities of our Python
I live in
tools.
Michigan now. Boring as hell here. Long.
No. It's totally fine. Actually, I created those stream series as a more talkative thing where I could communicate with someone.
Sorry,
But
don't mean to distract you. Heh.
yeah, no issues. I always covered by my chatbot. So if it decided that your message is too distracting, it will not announce it to me. At least per my prompt, because it's all configured. So yeah, it's basically all here, like our live chatbot and configurations which allow you to set up it like with some prompts, with chatbot responses and with message filter. So yeah, it could say skip message, for example, it will never respond to you, or oh no, it's message filter. If it returns skip, it means I'll never hear it unless I see it in the chat. But yeah, on my main screen I don't see a chat. And chatbot response, it also could skip that message as well. I believe there was another thing, stream info, message prompts. Yeah, maybe some prompt I still need to put into the configurations. But yeah, all the code is not complex at all, and we invest into writing some README file, so it should be pretty interesting. By chance, if anyone want to look, so I'll leave it here. Chatbot, please don't read it to me. Okay. So
HTTP says jithub.com for YouTube AI helper /schmeat local helper Python.
my chatbot not doing well. It decided to read me that link out. Okay. So, and now we decided to create the similar tool, but in a cloud. And we use Python to do that. And we follow what ChatGPT, like what LLM told us how we can build it. And we follow those patterns. And that's why we created some things which I've never worked before, like Dockers, like all the Python tools, like yeah, Fast API, like Celery, Redis, and all of those. Even we said that we probably will want to host it in Azure. It says it's fine. You can still use those tools. They're pretty powerful, and you have much more options if you want to move, for example, to Amazon services or something. So we decided to look into that. Last day, we able to execute most of the things like locally, all that for our 4 containers, let's say that. One is DB database, one is web API, one is Redis, and one is Celery worker. And now we are thinking about how to better organize that long running tasks, because our application is full of long running tasks, like downloading something from YouTube or from other source. Then another long running task would be even transforming that file from, like, extracting just audio in some specific format. Another task would be executing transcribing of that thing. Whatever we'll use, it's not 1 second thing. So even OpenAI SDK, Azure SDK, etc., taking some time to execute it. So it's pretty long. Our request timeout could come first if you just use it in web-based application without having it running for a long time. And again, our main purpose is to create something very universal, which could basically listen your streams, and once you finish them, do all you need without your actions at all. So on its own. So we're building through kind of AI agents, maybe with kind of workflow architecture, but still which don't need a human even push to start the things. Right now they need, because I have that AI bot, which basically, once a chatbot understands that our stream is not live anymore, it go and execute downloading of the stream, transcribing, executing all the prompts, and go back to YouTube and update everything with proper title, description, keywords, uploading our improved subtitles, removing other subtitles, and so on. So, but it still executes on my local computer, so I need to keep it open for some time. I couldn't close it and forget. And of course it's tool, even it's pretty simple for me. For others, people who not quite technical, of course it would be more complex to execute. It's maybe even not so complex, but they just scary of those things. Like they're scary from AI and scary of multiple things. So if they have some nice looking website, of course, and some AI agent, AI assistant, which helps them to set up everything in very few simple steps, they would be much more happier to use it. So that's what we are doing. Also learning some new technologies and practices here, using my time when I stream to do that, because I put some target for myself to stream every day. So yeah, that is what I'm doing, but I'm happy to always do something quick as side project. So if you have any ideas, we can do that. So right now I just want to execute some very simple script we created before. It's gather files, which gather all important files into all files output MD because we try to use that markdown structure to have all the files content. Oh really? And we have what? We have something wrong here. I'm sorry. Let's see exactly. So yeah, we received some file which we shouldn't get, and they are in 1. Okay, it's just our recent experiments. We able to execute download, but it not put in download in proper folder. So let's just remove all those files, and let's just re-execute that thing. Now it should remove unneeded files from here. And oh really? And it has some. So that file is good. and that is uploads. Okay, we need to remove uploads for sure. Okay, I haven't reviewed that for some time. Let's dears and let's just include here uploads, because so that dears which we will skip. On alt level. Why we do it twice? I don't remember. And that files we also haven't included, but looks like we still including some files which we don't need. Okay, uploads. And what is that? Maybe we need to add it here. Yeah, we work on that script, but not so much because it should be very simple. Uploads, it's still here. Let me double check. I just remove that file and I'll execute that once again just to make sure that, okay. Maybe just, no, it's still here. Template, input files, view, and then we have some uploads. Captions. Okay, let's review gather files once again. So we just execute gather files and we just do all file outputs, papam, and we just work in our directory, not in uploads. Interesting. For file and files, if files get size more, we just skip them. If any, skip dir and skip dir in git file path, git vn pycache uploads. It should work, I believe. Yes. Okay. Let's ask ChatGPT. It's what we do in all situations where we don't understand what to do. Of course, we will not include deep search. Hey, I have a file to gather all my file content into a single file, but it still adds files from my folders under uploads. Can you see an issue here? Oh, why it works with all other folders? Why? Yes. This modifies in place, which means we'll not even enter those directories. List subdirectories in dirs, and by modifying dirs, you remove unwanted directories. Okay. Precaution, which is why they're correctly excluded. Why uploads is not properly excluded. You added this check. This check whether uploads appear anywhere in the full file path, but the issue is they not always appear as substring in file path. Anyway, it filters out. Has already entered upload, so it still lists files with uploads. Before a caution, okay. Let me see very quickly. If, for example, our chat with O3 Mini will answer exactly the same thing. Just interesting because they state that O3 is so good in coding styles. It's so cool, and also we could ask our DeepSeek, because DeepSeek also is pretty cool. And we will not, maybe we could even include DeepSync just to mimic O3, because without DeepSync it would be like GPT-4 or similar. Okay. The nicest thing is that, okay, it says 37 seconds now. Okay. Most likely due to case sensitivity, you could explicitly check for the lowercase string uploads. So if your folder is named uploads with the capital U, of course. What's happening? Removes directories whose name exactly uploads. What is my name? Copy relative path. Oh, really? Yeah, that's what going on with DeepSeek sometimes. That's why it's cool, but we try to rely not only on it. So many attacks on the DeepSeek. Similarly, the check how to fix to lower, okay, and then file path to check. No, my file path is, let's see on the file path actually, and in all files it would be Z. My file path is and it is okay. We probably don't need to enter more details. What if we just reload the page and try to ask again? Syncing. We still don't see it syncing. Okay, let's try Quen. Oh, Quen. They said it's also good with coding. I couldn't insert it somehow, but yeah, let me copy it once again. And let's try Quen. And what if we code? Help me. Okay, let's do like that. Nice. The speed was super fast. Yes, there is an issue in your code that causes file from uploads folder to still be included. The problem lies in how you handling directory filtering. While you correctly modify the DIRS list and walk to skip certain directories, you also have a secondary check for skipping files. This check is redundant because already skips the directories. However, it introduces subtle bug. The any condition check if any of the strings like uploads a substring of file path. It means that even if uploads is not a directory but appears as part of file folder, it will incorrectly skip those files. You should rely solely. Really. I still don't get it. I mean, you see, but my file is under, but my file path is, oh, is this. And only skip directories on the current level uploads exist deeper in hierarchy. It won't be skipped unless explicitly handled. The problem lies in work process directories. When you modify dirs, it only affects immediate subdirectories of the current directory being traversed. If upload is not at the root level but nested deeper, it won't be excluded automatically. Ensure that all files under the directory uploads are excluded regardless of depth. You need to check the root path during each iteration of OS walk. Specifically, you can skip processing any files directory whose root contains upload. So that is our first pass. Okay, and then they propose it again and again. If uploads in root, so instead of validating something, we working with so simple file names. Ensure skip upload directory entirely. If for some reason enters path containing uploads, the uploads is not root checks. Ensure. So I think that should work for me, per my understanding. But you see, likely issue in that check. Use a simple substring test to entire file path. In many cases, this works but isn't very robust. For example, if file path has unexpected separator, name appears as part of longer name, check might not work as intended. Path part, OS path, norm path, file path split. Let's try that thing.
Remind me again what you're building. I just stumbled into this stream. Not a coder at all.
Okay, so initially, so you can see more details in the link I shared before, but overall, I'm building tools which help at least me and some of my friends with videos or streams. So I noticed that when I work to help my wife, for example, with some of her videos, when you publish a video, for example, on YouTube, she doing some pretty gardening channels, channels about flowers, plants, and other things in the garden. And yeah, so it's a beautiful channel. But when you publish a video, you also need not only to upload the video, but also provide its name, description, keywords, and so on and so on. And also, because YouTube not properly recognize some languages, for example, Cyrillic languages, it struggles to, when you choose how to transcribe it, sometimes it's do very bad job. It's decided it's not the language you specified, but some other language for some reason, and it do completely wrong transcription. So I think, okay, I need to transcribe it myself just to upload proper subtitles file, or I need to remove them. And then I decided, okay, I could use that transcript not only to upload it to YouTube, but also I can help myself with generating some of the text to provide me some ideas how to properly call those videos and what to write in the description. And that's how that projects appear. So I do the transcription of the file, and it's pretty simple. There are open source tools like Whisper, but also I've tried several other tools like tools from which exist on Azure, like cognitive services. Also, I tried some other transcription services from other companies. And thing is that Whisper showed at that time the best results, especially with non-English languages. For English, there are so many of them, but for non-English, not everyone doing pretty good, especially if you need to switch the languages and do one in one language, another in another. So Whisper showed the best result for me. And I think, okay, let's keep with Whisper, especially it's open source. How open source? It's free. You can download it. It's weight model on your local machine and execute it. So yeah, that's it. And after that, you receive as a result of Whisper, you just provided file, and it can provide you back or text or even subtitles in some of the format like SRT or some other format as well. And then I use those subtitles with ChatGPT and send them those subtitles and say, hey, can you generate like top 10 titles based on that subtitles? And prompts are very similar all the time. So yeah, I use ChatGPT in multiple areas of my life when I need some help or some work to do. It's never mean to completely replace me, but at least provide me some ideas and some thoughts. So, and of course, yeah, when I write some text, it should do fix all the issues, all the errors, etc., etc. Basically, what I've used some other tools like Word or like Google Translate or something before, because of course English is not my first language and even not my second language. So yeah, it's always problems with when you talk multiple languages. So, and I see that I do the same task over and over again, and I decided, okay, if I do them over and over, why I couldn't slightly automate? I'm software development, so it was very natural thought. And I repeat the same prompts over and over from video to video. Yeah, so I just put a very simple program where I could just put prompts and yeah, medical fields. Cool. Actually, it does it going to announce it or not? Okay, it doesn't matter. So I work on my
Okay, thanks. I work in medical field, so
I-
interest.
on my main work. I also work with medical fields, with some projects around medical fields, and also some of them use AI to do the things, especially on not on providing proper diagnosis, but mostly on analyzing some data, which in some specific formats, probably if I said that specific format would be like file format, it would make some sense. And yeah, Microsoft now have a lot of things in their possession for help some medical organizations, and there are a lot, of course. And yeah, we do several interesting projects like trying to build some sentiment analysis of doctor-patient communications, also recognized, and build them again, not for punish someone, but just to get some insights on how happy patients are on different levels of medicine, etc., etc. So like work in some fields close to analytical cases. So, but yeah, I never worked very close with exact ChatGPT. Mostly it was some specialized models. But of course now with rise of complexity which can handle ChatGPT and related models like O3 or something, it's unbelievable. Like even a year ago, it was something you never could imagine of. And now they could do a great job, and prices always go down. And that's why people should be fast switch to something cheap and efficient, because even I believe that what we use for something like sentiment analysis or for some social determinants, it's now could be handled very simple by the recent OpenAI models or like even DeepSeek models. Of course, you shouldn't send those data to China, but you could host it on your local server and use it, and it would be very efficient and very cost efficient and speed efficient and so on and so on. So it's the whole world, and yeah, what we are doing, yeah.
AI can replace coders completely. You think this is what I've been hearing? Or does it just get more complex?
It's a topic I've discussed and thought about on my few streams. So, even now, AI can speed up work of software developer dramatically. I don't know if you heard about some copilot things. I like the term because it's not like fully replace a developer, but copiloting it. It's when it's actually enabled even in Visual Studio Code. It's free for everyone. Of course, on free layer you have some limits. But if you say, hi, my name is, I don't know. Yeah, it wouldn't work because we need to preserve that file somehow. Let me just try to save it somewhere as maybe here, some text, MD, for example. By the way, it doesn't work in with MD file format, which basically is simple markdown. So you see, it's what it do. Right now, it's very simplified thing. It just it just a text. So I am, but it's show all the things it can do. So when you write your code or even text, I just enable it for text in some special formats, because in Markdown I put some documentation. It could try to guess what you want to write next. Of course, here it's maybe not exactly what I wish to write, but I could just don't care and write what I need. But with the more I write, the better it provides the suggestions. And of course, in the code, it would do much better. So if you just imagine I try to write some code here, and I can write some comment and say functions to add, I don't know, numbers. Okay. And the next thing, it will try to add that functions as we describe it even in comment, and so on and so on. And it just infuse in my workflow and allow me to write code, I don't know, at least twice faster than before. And I don't need to think about very simple things or things I could search in internet or Stack Overflow, etc., etc. Of course, in that case, very natural step would be the next step, when you just say, okay, instead of helping me, just write something. And from what I see right now, there are a lot of projects. We've reviewed some of them, and I read like not on the stream about many of them. And then, of course, they can write you simple program, and they could fix even some issue in your code. And what people trying to do, they said, okay, if it can do those fixes, why we not just apply those fixes and try to rebuild our code, execute some tests and see how it's working. And in that particular scenarios, of course, it's working pretty nice. So they built like agentic workflow when it's know how to save files, it's know how to.
So you have advantage of speed compared to people with no coding background.
Of course, yes. If people have no coding background, it would be much. So it anyway will take much more time for them to build something. And again, with current technologies, again, we are talking at this moment of time. It's just February 13, yes, 2025, and right now, of course, you can use ChatGPT or other systems like DeepSeek or all other type of chats. There are multiples, LLMs on the market to build some code, and it would create the code very quickly. But the more complex this code will become, the more complex it would be for you to write a prompt. What exactly you want to change? What exactly you want to fix? And because again, it's how all that LLMs are working. LLM actually, they don't have a clue what you are actually asking them. they don't have. I don't want to say soul. They don't have consciousness. That means they basically don't know about what you are talking, but they now know how to predict the answers. And all that reasoning models, it's trying to solve that problem. They just use multi steps. And even if it's could be very helpful, unexpectedly helpful in many fields, to replace developers, especially good software developers, it probably would be pretty complex in upcoming year or maybe years. Like I believe any professional here, but of course the trend is going to that direction. Why software developers? Because basically their product is the code, and it's so simple to replace. Believe me, if we find a way to build very cheap robots, it would be much more. It would be much more possible that they will replace people who work on Earth, in constructions, in I don't know, all that simple jobs which doesn't require to take some creative or like some creative or things on which you should think and it's and create let's say that, so which are not so simple, which are not so straightforward, which are not fall under some rules. Yes, so if you, for example, sending people some goods at Amazon fabric, yes, and Amazon warehouse, you already have everything. You have product, you have address, you just need to pack it, you need to properly apply that address label and send it to some driver. And driver, it's also very simple work. With developers, it's slightly more complex, but it's much more simple to try work with them, because result of their work not much interfere with real world, you know. That's why it's so many talks about developers. Of course, I believe now it could replace some task of developers, like AI do in multiple fields. It could replace some other task which you need some assistance before, but now you can ask ChatGPT and it will help you, especially tools like deep research or even O3 with internet access. It could do pretty good summarization and analysis. And like young or like not experienced software developers, of course, you don't need as much unexperienced or low experienced developers, because those tasks could be replicated by AI, like fixing some bugs. So do some learning curve, which doesn't require a great talent from you at the moment, but it would be helpful for both for you to learn and for company to fix something. Yeah, so those developers could be probably replaced by models we have even now. But then it would be a question how to raise a good software developers which are senior. So yeah, so I believe still maybe we will see some incline in number of software developers. But the more people want to apply AI to their workflow, it would be very complex to do without developers at all, because all that tools where you can build or do something with so at least on that stage, yes, when you think about it, yeah, it could be crazy, because again, 2 years ago we couldn't imagine that. Now we say, okay, maybe we never see something more intelligent. Yeah, it would be just slight intelligent jumps. But if, for example, anyone will develop something more like AGI, it could replace everyone, because it could have a very good intelligent level with all the knowledge of all the humans like those models have, with all the experiences, and they could learn new experience and use them, not like that memory kind thing in ChatGPT, but like actually infuse them more like Tesla models are learning. So it would be, but it would be real time and very, very, very fast. So of course it creates some risk for every human on the earth. So
like artist versus non-artist, using the same tool, the artist that has the background will win using the same tool versus the non-artist. Wonder if that applied to coders.
yes, of course. Yes, of course. Because, for example, I work on some code right now where I try to use ChatGPT, and I try to use most certificated models like O1 Pro and others, O3 High, and so on. And I try very good prompts, providing me very good context, but there are still things it's couldn't solve. Sometimes it go in circles. Sometimes it's propose something which maybe could fly on the first iteration, but surely will not work when you add slightly much complexity. So it's very good on something which already been developed before, so it could apply the same experience. But if it need to create something new, and it's not something like created widely, or it has information about it, of course it wouldn't be as helpful. It could say about some patterns you can use, it could help you implement them, but maybe the whole code, it's not something he is able to do right now. Of course, developers with some good experience can benefit from it. The same thing with, I believe, artists, etc. For example, very simple comparison: if you're an artist, of course, software, of course, let's say artificial intelligence, what we call now artificial intelligence, yes, could repeat your art style and create some of your works in digital form and maybe create something very similar to what you've created. But for example, if you can draw it in on canvas, like with oils, you know, right now, let's say that, yeah, it's all possible, but right now it's not something AI could easily do. I mean, it couldn't replicate you as a artist or in the real world. Of course, you can create some robot, give it a brush, and say now just paint the same, draw the same painting as those artists. But you need to teach it. It would be possible, and it would create very good copies. But again, probably unless he see how you do it, it will replicate, but it wouldn't be genuine. Maybe it wouldn't provide the same kind of feelings like the original painting. In digital world, of course, it's all much simpler. It can reproduce much closer if we just don't leave computer. But still, there are tasks by which it couldn't replicate, at least at the moment. It's still not a actual artificial intelligence, what they called AGI, like general, yes, artificial intelligence. It just what they call artificial intelligence is just really good models which are pre-trained and they don't change themselves. So they are not acting like humans, but like very good, knowledgeable thing which we trained on a huge amount of data, and it's know how to receive a good prediction which should be liked by humans, but they don't know again about the nature of what they're doing, about nature of those predictions and so on. Of course, it's much more improved in the last years with all that focusing techniques of creating proper embedding models and so on, but it's about how actual LLMs working. But still, it's just numbers. It receives numbers, it do some multipliers, and it choose the best numbers from numbers. So it's still kind of prediction. We shouldn't forget about it. And they could be very close, but they're not replacing humans right now. But of course, junior coder, junior everyone would be very hard right now. They need a good face and good focus for people just to become better in their job, and then probably, yeah, it couldn't be replaced by AI soon. And again, even if we create AGI, which probably a lot of companies who invest billions of dollars or millions or billions of dollars, I hopefully not trillions of dollars to that thing, it's most probably it's already possible, I mean, mathematically and in compute power and everything, but it could just cost too much. I mean, asking the question from that supercomputer could cost a lot, could cost much more than work of other humans, of other scientists, and etc. So for sure, we are creating something which we don't understand, and who knows how it will evolve. I see that companies now firing some developers, all major companies on the US market. But they trying to fire low performers. So basically not just developers, but they choose people who they pay too much for their skills. And they don't touch others. And again, those numbers not huge. It's maybe 5% or below of the whole company structure. So it's minor layoffs, but of course it helps them to get some money, which they invest into more AI infrastructure, AI like data centers, etc., which will execute some AI things. And looks like, again, if you need to create some simple programs, yes, future models of AI agents can do that. But once you need something more complex, they could struggle. But the thing is that maybe 85-90% of all the code is pretty simple. I learned in the university so many complex things, and when I start working, I need my knowledge from university in other fields than just raw programming. Just very sometimes, it's like I could finish the school and go to the work. It feels like that. If you think about some algorithm which someone could ask developers in some interviews, again, they're quite basic, and it would be not proper to ask some complex algorithm again, and so on. So it's a word, and yeah, a lot of
My sis graduating with computer science degree this summer. Not sure if there are any jobs for her. Should she just build projects herself going forward?
you can always look what's on the market. It's I mean, I'm not in the.
Like what you're doing.
She could, but it wouldn't give her any money unless she is pretty successful and her startup or something. Of course, I again, it would be so about startups. I'm not an expert in startups, so I don't know if it's so simple or not to achieve some success here. Of course, people who study and learn in some communities, like in maybe close to like Silicon Valley, and visit all those meetings of startuppers, of inspired people. Of course, they maybe have a better idea and understanding of the state of the things here. I see a huge amount of new companies, new startups, and I see a huge amount of fundings of those companies. So probably I'd looking for join to one of those companies to get a good experience and receive it. If she don't have any bright idea which she want to implement on her own. But also, if we look on careers, again, if she have some company in mind, it could be that company. But for example, if you look at some careers, for example, in Microsoft company or ChatGPT search, it should provide me a link to that website. Hello, ChatGPT. Do that quick. Okay. So, for example, and even if she completely new, again, even with some layoffs, you see that still there are some number of openings. And if you go, for example, just to United States, because there are multiple jobs in Microsoft which allow you to work remotely and search for, I don't know, some internship or something, which means that they're looking for people who don't have any commercial experience, but just they even have some opportunities for high school. But of course, we are looking for some opportunities for graduates or recent graduates or people who will soon graduate. And of course, we see that there are some opportunities for example, of course, those are in local. They said like up to 50% work from home, probably because it's just internship. I know that many developers, many employers work from home mostly, and only occasionally visit some offices if ever. So, for example, there are required qualification. You see that must have 1 semester term remaining for that position. There are some positions which actually said completed some degree less than maybe a year or a few years ago, and so on and so on. And so the preferred qualification, as you see, it's not huge at all for person who finished some university or college with computer science. It's just computer science fundamentals, data structures, algorithms, and because internship, it doesn't mean it will provide you a work for sure, but of course it will provide you a few months where you can try to work and understand those how to work, what are the current problem, what is the working process, and so on and so on in big companies, because it could be completely different experience from what she received in university. And
Unpaid internship. Oh God, not free labor.
it's not unpaid. So there are some base pay range, and I'd say it's much more than if she goes to, I don't know, to Starbucks or somewhere else as Amazon driver, at least in that state, for sure. I don't remember seeing unpaid internship from big companies. It's like all paid, and salaries range, of course, not close to what seniors developers would receive, but much bigger than minimal wage, of course. So again, I'm just showing you example on one company, one example, and if I look for that internship, okay, right now it's not much, but sometimes I saw just for internship opportunities, I don't know about maybe, okay, I just remove opportunities. So it would be intern, of course, research intern, probably it would require some bigger level of education because we have word research.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the insight thus far.
Okay, so you see, even on one company example, there are openings. Of course, there are, as I said, there are so many companies right now. I don't have one site which have all of them. I immediately think about LinkedIn, but I know that some people are struggling to find any job through LinkedIn, of course. So I wouldn't recommend something. Again, I'm not in this business, but I'd still look into some company. And she, of course, if she has some ideas, she could work on it as a side project. And again, if she has understands that, okay, she need to invest more time, probably her age is good thing to get started in that area. Okay, I think that is understand it, and probably we can remove that copiloting thing. I remember we did some research, not research, but received some answer like this from Otrimini High, which I want to try in my code instead of this. And for that, I'll just do like this. And of course, let's try to skip this as well. Again, it's just utility method, which should be, it should work very. What's now? File path. Plus norm path. We do it here. You see, even for some simplest problem, for some very simplest problem, sometimes it provides some solution which not work immediately. And again, I just never had a good chance to learn Python very well. Is normally set by file pass before the will trigger the error. Hard to fix. Dears. Okay. We have everything of those. So for file name, file path is join root file name, skip dears. We have those. Pass parts, norm pass, file pass, split OS sep. Any skip part. It just replace once again. Of course, those agents, they repeat in my work, basically. So if you do the agent, say, okay, I have that error, and it's try to execute. Okay, it's executed, it's have some issue. It's say, okay, it not executing, it has that issue, and it's try to respond, and it has special prompts that please don't return just file name and code, which will fix it, or combination of file names and codes, and then it will use some tools to save those files, run the tool once again, execute some tests, and so on and so on. Of course, it could fix some issues, it could fix some bugs, it could implement something pretty simple. But if we step into some fields where it's not simple, of course, AI agent could just cooperate, not fully take lead there. And let's see what we have right now in that file. Looks like, from what I see in those files, now actually uploads are not here anymore, because we tried to do several uploads before. Okay, now we can go and test another functionality. So interesting, they said that now they enabled attachments. Okay, let me see, where is that reveal in File Explorer? And here we can include that file. So interesting, when they allow the file, they don't allow the search. Okay, I've attached my code. I was able to run DB and Redis in Docker and web, and how it's called, some worker, some readme, some Celery, and Celery worker locally. Now I am thinking of proper tracking tasks. I am thinking to send to a long time. What's that? And to Celery tasks, which has task ID from database, and they could do required things like this way. I could see all my tasks in DB and in UI. But tasks need to read DB to get task context and execute required action. Is it good approach or not? What is your recommendations? Let's see if it can handle my code. I'm not sure about some limits for those files now. Basically, we can try to see those limits. We can go to OpenAI platform and look at the docs. And of course, docs are about API limits. What if we just need to go to OpenAI and see maybe we can find some help here? Company news. Oh, I saw that model spec. It's really huge. It's really huge. I don't know who will read it end to end, but it's really huge. And we look for the documentation. Okay, let's go to the page here. OpenAI, text generation, assistance, embedding, tokens. Do we have some like FAQ or support? About us, careers, brand, stories, help center. Okay, maybe file limit. Let's try. What are the upload file limit restrictions? Updated 2 months ago. So all text and documents uploaded to GPT, conversation, all files, 1512 megabyte, 512 megabyte. Conversation are kept at 2 million tokens per file. Doesn't apply to spreadsheets. 2 million tokens. So it depends on file type. Our open don't have access to following advanced tools and features. Memory, file upload. Actually, they support it now, but it's updated 2 months ago. The ways to find proper place to find the latest news about ChatGPT. Maybe we need to ask ChatGPT itself. Let's try. What are the latest as of Feb 12? File text file limits to attach to chat for O3 mini high model from OpenAI in chats. Okay, it did search. So they use the same article as me, which is 2 months long, 2 months old. Can you confirm that O1 doesn't support uploads? Can you do real research on this? I will not enable research because it will take much more longer. Have limited support. Specifically, these models only support image files. Of course. But again, it probably will be article from several months back in time. Okay, anyway, using the database to track task ID and having your Celery task pull the latest context from the DB is a common and valid approach. It gives you centralized visibility in your UI and ensure tasks always work with up-to-date information. Ensure that each task creates its own database session so you avoid connecting pull issues in Celery Worker. And the task context is static or unlikely to change. Consider passing the essential data along with the task instead of having the task query the database. This can reduce potential race conditions. Your custom tracking in the DB and Celery built-in results backend if you need to monitor task states and results. Keep your task. Okay, overall your approach is sound with careful management of DB sessions. Okay. Let's see, what do you mean by can you provide simple code snippets? And probably will not look into the details into that sharing the latest model spec. 7 minutes. Okay. It looks not huge here. What's next? Open source in the model spec. You can find these prompts and model spec source in the GitHub repository. Cool. Probably I saw actual model spec file. Where is this? Read the model spec. Yeah, something like that. So, and it's show all the risks and what is the good. So some basic definitions. Assistant to Python, import this. And then they try to show all the different cases, like chain of command and everything. So if you provide some big command, they shouldn't be redefined by user, so your assistant could work in proper way, and they also provide some violation from assistant, and so on and so on. And it's a huge. You just read it. They're very similar. Like, of course, they're not similar because comply with some laws. Never generate some sexual context. Don't provide informational hazards, and so on and so on. But also there are some exclusions which they talk about, and so on. Again, it's very big. I couldn't read it to the end, of course, but I got the idea. I have no idea how to use it, maybe unless you develop your custom a new model and they provide some examples how it should behave, what is good approach, what is bad approach. But of course your results wouldn't be one of those. It could be something which can fall into one of each categories. And they just provided the same thing here in doc, and it would be some HTML file, I believe, which is very big, and they call it the open source our spec. Okay. The thing that probably the examples are slightly better because they are in markdown format, so you can preview them and it looks slightly more natural than HTML page. But again, they're not connected exactly to the context. So they have some link here, but of course you need to read full specification for that. So yeah, I'm not sure how it could be used. Maybe we need to read more about it. Maybe I'll read in my free time. And I'll not implement the task engine right now because it's already some time in the stream. Oh. Okay. So imagine I have your own database table to track task. Okay. And you're already using Celery result backend, such as Redis, to keep track of task states. You can combine both by updating your custom DB record inside your task so that you can query your own DB for a richer UI, login, or business logic, and still use Celery native mechanism to check task state. For example, suppose you have a SQL alchemy model like this. Task record, task ID, status, result. Now in your Celery task, you could update the custom task record as you work. Engine, setup, SQL alchemy session, adjust the connection string accordingly. Session local, session maker, Celery app, Celery my app, broker, localhost, Redis backend, localhost, and my task, bind room, session local, session maker, bind engine, task record, task ID self request ID, my task, data, status pending result, they create new record, add task record commit, update start, db commit, I don't see a class here, so my task is a class, self data, self request ID. Okay. Usage, my task delay sample data, bind engine, engine is task db, base metadata create all, bind engine, self request ID. And failure or success, db commit, update state. Okay, ignore. Task record row in your process, etc., etc. This way you leverage how my task in that case know what class is self and why self request ID represents a task ID in DB. We need to create a task with bind true. Okay. It automatically passes the task instance commonly referenced as self as the first argument. This instance is the object of Celery task class and containing information about current task execution. For example, self request ID is automatically generated by Celery as the unique identifier for the task. So when you use self request ID, it represents the task unique ID. Okay. So self will update task status in Redis. Yes. That means you can later use the sync result with task ID. It will reflect the update state like started, success, failure that you set via set the update. Can I use only only status in, or I free to choose any text? A few basic questions about Redis, and I think I will be ready to get going. Painting started successfully. Re-entry walks that have specific meaning within its ecosystem. While it technically can pass any string to self-update status, using custom states may not be integrated seamlessly with built-in monitoring and handling logic. It's generally best to stick with the standard states for clarity and consistency. Okay. So what I'm thinking about tasks, and that Celery and executions looks good. The only thing we need to think about proper DB structure, how to integrate into our current model those tasks, and how to differentiate which task will do what. Probably we need to define few type of tasks like download something, or convert something, transcribe something, using some configuration probably, and as well execute something like execute prompt. Or execute configuration, which will create multiple tasks to execute prompts, and so on. Let's ask, can I, in one Celery task, create multiple others Celery tasks? I don't need to know their result, just IDs. Probably yes. So if we said we want to execute some configuration on some uploaded file, it means that we need to execute all the tasks, for each prompt we found, we need to execute each task, and probably we can use some type of task like execute configuration, which basically will say execute prompt, and simply capture the ID without waiting for the results. So parent task for item, child task delay, append, return. Okay. So looks like Celery will work nice. It's of course not stateless Azure functions, but in our case probably it's even better because we still have queues, and we still have tasks which replicate the queues in Redis, and we can see everything in UI, and each task will update at the end its status in Redis and in UI as well. So we just can have some timer in UI if we want to see some updates, and just refresh list of our task connected to one file and see where it's going and which stage it is. Okay, so we looks like we cleared for our next stage, where we need to start implementing task and try to replicate what we've built locally to build in cloud and try to run that locally, and then try to deploy it to cloud and see how it works in real life. Okay, so I think everyone already disconnected. I wish all the viewers who sometimes watching my streams after they ended a good luck. Of course, I wish you to value those values which are above all the artificial intelligence development or other things in this world more, like love, like kindness, like time with your loved ones, like inspiration from nature, and so on. So all those things which warm your heart and make your soul feel cozy, those should prevail in your life and in your priorities. Of course, everything else also is very important. Of course, your work of your life is a job of your life, and maybe not only of your life, of your current period of time, which bring you some comfort for like on financial space also should be good. But of course, you should prioritize. I see multiple times when people not prioritizing something and they get tricked and they become not so good version of themselves, and they choose one values and then again and again, and then their values are changed. Now they need more, they like more, for example, some power over other things and so on. And actually it's all like mirage. All the power, all the money, everything. Of course it's good to have rather than not to have, but it shouldn't be the main driving point in your life, of course. So yeah, choose the right things. We could talk about all stream of Elon, but I'll stream more technical. But if you have any questions, please, on any field, on this or on technical, drop in below the stream into the comment section. I will look into them after the stream, and yeah, we'll start next stream with those questions of yours. Also, it's so simple to lost the channel in the YouTube. YouTube has so many information, good and bad, and sometimes useless and sometimes useful. If you ever want to find me, maybe you subscribe. I still doing my streams every day, and if I had any news, you will know. I'll try to update my prompts to make description even more meaningful. And again, I'll share some links on my channel if I'll decide to do some shorter videos, more informative videos. So please subscribe and sometime visit the channel, just in case, or maybe if you like, I invite you to join my live streams. They start normally after 10 p.m., sometimes after 11 p.m. Pacific time, but here I try to do them closer to 10. Of course, it's not always true, but it's what I want. So guys, yeah, have a good luck, see you, and have a great day. Goodbye.